Hello there. The true money-grabbing nature of some employers has been exposed, as whistleblowers say they are scamming the government worker furlough scheme. Firstly, please subscribe and like this video to give my channel a boost, and I'm always uploading new content, so please do check back daily. According to charities and whistleblowers, furlough scheme fraud is rife amongst UK employers, and it's the ordinary taxpayer who will be asked to foot the bill. PersonnelToday.com says that whistleblowers are unveiling fraud committed by UK employers that have used the furlough scheme to make large sums of money by falsely claiming employees are on furlough. And the co-chair of the all-party parliamentary group for whistleblowing, Baroness Kramer, told the Telegraph that, "At a time like this, when we as taxpayers are stepping forward to give people a lifeline, this abuse seems even more outrageous than it might under normal circumstances. Taxpayers are feeling the pain." Remember that the furlough scheme is meant to be used by employers who temporarily cannot operate because of the constraints placed on their business caused by the invisible enemy, in that their workers can neither go into work because of the social distancing rules for them and or their customers, and also that they cannot do their job from home. If they can safely go to the workplace or can successfully work from home, then the furlough scheme is not appropriate for that employer. So the idea is that the staff get paid for staying at home until they can safely return to work. And asking workers to continue to work unpaid or to work while they are furloughed is against the rules. Here's what PersonnelToday.com said on this. Under the rules of the furlough scheme, workers must not complete any work for their employer in order for their role to be eligible for the grant, which covers 80% of wages up to a maximum of £2,500 per month. However, whistleblowing organisations have heard numerous reports from individuals that their employers are asking them to continue to work despite receiving furlough support. But some employers must have seen this access to free grant money as a nice opportunity to make some extra dough, just when everyone else was suffering. Now, the first of the scams is that a company furloughs its staff, but then asks them to continue working or even to volunteer to work unpaid. Another is that they furlough the staff without telling them, so they keep working but are being paid by the government not to work, so the employer gets free workers on the taxpayer. And then there's the one of claiming for a worker who is no longer on their books. And how about saying you've recruited someone and claim for them when they don't even exist? And the workers can say nothing because these unscrupulous bosses threaten and bully them with their jobs, as Whistleblowers UK has reported. Another whistleblowing charity, Protect, said that over a third, 36%, of COVID-related calls they received recently were about furlough fraud by employers. And Protect also said that furlough fraud was on the rise and that it had received 50 calls about it in the last 2 weeks. Now, it appears that the main culprits are the hospitality and retail sectors, and peoplemanagement.co.uk reports that the revelation follows HMRC recently announcing that nearly 800 people had reported their employers to the body for fraudulently claiming money from the scheme. And it quotes the chief executive of Protect, Liz Gardiner, who said, "People have simply been told to work despite being furloughed, and they obviously feel uncomfortable about this as it's wrong. It is deceiving taxpayers out of money. We've also heard from people who didn't know they'd been furloughed until they got 80% of pay for doing their usual work." Now that's truly nasty and devious. those employers are obviously under the impression that they can successfully bully or fool their workers as well as pull the wool over the eyes of HMRC. And the situation is not helped by the fact that HMRC shut down its reporting hotline, probably resulting in those employers getting a warm and fuzzy feeling that they'll never ever be held to account for this underhanded behaviour. And you can bet they've been talking to other bosses too, and that amongst some of them it's now becoming a sort of accepted practice. And the more of them that do this, the easier it will be for them to get away with it. After all, you can imagine these people thinking to themselves, are the authorities going to lock all of us dodgy employers up and shut down our companies just when they need all hands on deck for the economic recovery? Surely it's just like politicians' expenses, they'd say, there to be milked as long as no one asks too closely. And some will be banking on so many of their fellow employers getting up to this that it causes such an almighty administrative snarl-up, so forcing HMRC to put everything in the dusty archives, letting these morally bankrupt bosses free to then romp off scot-free. Some of them might even try and claim they did it to keep going to help the UK economy or other such garbage. And some, of course, will claim it's not really a crime, as no one got hurt and it's just the nasty taxman that got stung. Wrong, it's the taxpayers who are getting stung, as they would well know. Now, the money used to furlough these staff members does not come out of the Treasury coffers. No, those vaults were emptied long ago. The dosh is being borrowed by the government at an alarming rate from the debt markets. And the Office for National Statistics said today that the government borrowed an estimated £62.1 billion in April this year, which is £52.1 billion more than April last year. And it is the largest monthly borrowing since records began on this in January 1993. Higher even than the oft-quoted credit crunch period. Not a good milestone for the UK economy. And in that one single month of April, the UK borrowed more money than it did in the whole 12 months of the 2019 to 2020 financial year. And our total pile of net debt now stands at just short of 1.9 trillion quid and rising fast. Remember that this month's figures for borrowing are likely to be as high, if not higher, than April's, especially when the ONS says, the effects of COVID-19 are not fully captured in this release, which contains the second provisional estimates of public sector finances data for the financial year ending March 2020 and the first estimates for April 2020. The scale of future revisions will probably be larger than normal as more information about the effects of COVID-19 becomes available. And now couple all that in with a massive record slump in retail trade and the associated loss in tax earnings, and you can see the pressure the UK government finances are under. Now, there is one small positive in the ONS figures, which is that the cost for our £1.9 trillion pile of debt was £5 billion in April, or about £60 billion a year. And that, says the Telegraph economics editor Russell Lynch, is about 3.6% of the nation's revenues, and well below the maximum level of 6% set by Rishi Sunak's predecessor Sajid Javid. And that might give the Chancellor a lot of scope for more borrowing as we come out of this crisis. And despite this heavy borrowing by the UK, it seems that investors remain hungry to buy our debt in the current economic climate. In fact, at the last gilt auction, investors paid more for them than they would get back if they held them to maturity. That is to say, by getting less back than they paid, they effectively purchased a negative interest rate investment. That means they'd rather lose a little bit of money on gilts than take a big risk in investing it anywhere else and losing a whole chunk, if not the lot. It's also good for us if we end up paying back less than we borrowed in the first place. But if we do have to churn that debt when those gilts mature, we might find that our borrowing costs have risen. But that's a risk for another time. We have to deal in the right now, today. Anyway, at the end of the day, the debt will be racking up over the next few months, maybe even years, and many hundreds of millions, if not billions of it, will be down to some unprincipled and exploitative employers trying to make a fast buck while the rest of us endure the pain and then have to start picking up the tab when it's all over. And one wonders if those businesses indulging in this nefarious behaviour are also up to no good in other areas of their business dealings. But there'll be the inevitable government report on it. But will the scale of the crimes involved lead to yet another report that's buried with the excuse that it's not in the public interest to publish it? Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So what do you think about this? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.